You're muted, Taylor. Still muted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys. Woohoo. We're not editing that out, Kevin, so screw you. Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brianna and Sam, and you're listening to No Limits, a PlayStation podcast. Remember, you can find this podcast over on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. And while you're over there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you'd rather listen to the audio, we're on all your favorite podcast services, and we'd love to have you stop by for a 5-star review. It helps us grow with the algorithm. If you'd like to interact more with us, including sending in questions, join the Discord with the link down in the show notes below. And finally, if you want to support us and get early access to all Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that's right for you. Just like our current patrons did, Bucky Blue, Hopple, Packatom, SAZ, Fabulous Brianna, my fellow co-host, and Brianna's mom. Go to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Once again, check it out. Links in the show notes. And you can also check us out on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia. So with that said, guys, how you doing?
I'm chaotic.
We're bringing chaotic energy this week,
Yeah.
and I'm all for it. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you for asking, Taylor. I'm a little bit tired, as I said before we started recording, but as we discussed, being here with you guys, it's never a bad time. So I'm ready to go.
Oh, thanks. So have you been playing anything outside of your IGN playbook?
No, it's mainly just been Digimon Survive, unfortunately.
Wow, I heard that game is so great.
It's okay. It's nothing special. It's all right as a visual novel. The combat stuff is pretty dreadful. The only things I have slightly dabbled in is I've tried to start a new playthrough for God of War to get ready for Ragnarok, and I've also tried out just a little bit of Rollerdrome, one of the new indie releases. So nice. That's what I've been playing.
Cool. How about you, Brie? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, a little bit chaotic this morning.
What makes it chaotic?
I definitely woke up when I told you guys I woke up, and I didn't go back to sleep for 30 minutes because my cat laid on me. And then of course, like, I had to do my whole shower routine, which is like a chore, as I've expressed in the Discord. There's so many steps. Anyways, and then there's the post shower stuff, because then you have to put lotions on. It's a lot. So yeah, so chaos. I was just like rubbing lotion like everywhere. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go. But that's just how I live. Like, no matter what's happening, it doesn't matter if I'm on time, if I'm late. Like, that's just how I live. So yeah, that's what like, that's how I'm doing as far as like emotionally.
Well, you're chaotic good. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, always. As far as video games, I've kind of been like jumping around a lot. I tried Antechamber a little bit.
What's that?
Tried it's almost like a Stanley Parable kind of thing, but like kind of mixed with Portal-y elements. A little bit, except for like not the like teleporting, just more of like the gun aspect, like where you have like a gun that's like kind of helping you with mechanics, if that makes sense. So that made me like, I'm really motion sick, but I keep jumping into it anyways. I like get so like violently sick, and then I'm like, okay, I gotta go do something. And what the cure is always League of Legends. I don't know why. But whenever I get motion sick, I play League of Legends. So I've been doing that. I also ran some Savage content in Final Fantasy.
That's the name of the content, Savage content.
Yeah, so there's raids, which are, so they're called normal raids typically, and they're 8 people. And then those raids get upgraded to Savage raids, and the Savage raids are basically, if you don't know the mechanics, you can wipe the entire party. And you have to start all over, like start the raid over. So it's like a lot more intense. Like normal raids, like healers can usually like res enough people that it doesn't really matter, but you have to have all the DPS up, because if not all the DPS are up, then you don't do enough damage. And if you don't do enough damage, then the boss will enrage and basically kill everybody. If you don't kill them in a certain amount of time. And yeah, I really enjoy it. You have to be very much on your toes. I even have like Google documents for these raids, so that way I know what I'm doing. I very much enjoy it. That was my spiel. What have you been playing, Taylor, and how are you?
Thanks. I'm doing pretty decent. Just finishing up here before I go back to college tomorrow for my final semester, as I stated before the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's so
And
exciting.
yes, I'm throwing job applications at every corner, talking to some companies already.
You're just like, are you like throwing out like newspapers? Just like,
Oh yeah. Not just newspaper. It's like the you know how they're you know how when you submit dollar bills to a bank and they have the machine that swipes it all and counts it instantly?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm doing, but there's no guard, so it just flies everywhere. Like,
you have like one of those like money
like a turret just shooting applications and resumes everywhere.
Yeah, I respect that. Yeah.
Thanks. But yeah, so so that's been cool. But with regards to games, what have I been playing? So I've been playing a lot of new video games, or any actually, but like in terms of new releases, I continued some Breath of the Wild. Not as hard as I was going through it in past weeks, but still inching my way through it. Solved a nice shrine quest that was, or Sam, you play Breath of the Wild?
I haven't.
Oh, okay, so there are these quests in Breath of the Wild where they're kind of like puzzles and riddles that you solve. And in exchange, for solving them, a shrine appears, and Bree has a very surprised face because Sam hasn't played this game.
I just shocked Pikachu face. I can't believe you even played it.
But I solved one of those, which was like very gratifying. I'm very stubborn. Like if I can't solve one, I'm like, I'm not going to look it up. I'm not moving on until I solve it.
You don't look it up? Oh man,
it took me like 3 days
instantly.
It'd be like 4 hours of in-game time to be like, all right, I got it, and then I got it.
Oh my god.
But yeah, making my way through that, so that was cool, and also playing Mario Kart. Believe it or not, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with Sean Capri and his community over at Carpool Gaming last Saturday and yesterday.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw them by yesterday.
Yeah, cool. And just checking out the DLC tracks. Wave 2 of the Mario Kart 8 DLC tracks came out that include Mushroom Gorge, Coconut Mall, among others. Sky High Sunday. Those are some of my favorite. Waluigi Pinball, big fan.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, playing through that, having fun there. But I'm getting an itch to return to Ghost of Tsushima. I still haven't finished that game yet. And for listeners who don't know, our good friend of the show over at Project X Talk, our sister Xbox show at Save the Game Media, Ethan recently acquired a PlayStation 5 a few days ago, and he has been completely enamored with Ghost of Tsushima. He thought it would have been right up his alley, and he went for it, and he's having an awesome time. And kind of reminded me that, I got the director's cut on PlayStation Plus, and I still haven't finished the game, so I want to dive in, and I still want to make an effort to complete all the side content, excluding the DLC, complete all the side content before I roll credits and on the main story, and do the main story last. So
yeah, I went immediately to Iki Island on accident. So
yeah, you talked about that.
I'm not happy about it. Decidedly not enough booty there. So
okay, both loot and booty, but
Indeed.
Well, I mean, listen, like, what do you think I'm playing the game for?
Right,
it's to go to the hot springs. Yeah.
Obviously. Oh, okay. All right. I see. I'm a fan of the bamboo strikes because I like my resolve. But
oh, I do really like that. I also like going and petting all the animals. I'll be honest.
Yes, the foxes are great. Yes, so I think I'm going to return to that this week as we prep for The Last of Us Part 1 in, let's see, today's, at the time of recording, it's August 21st. I think we have like less than 2 weeks, 10 days or so. We have exactly 12 days until Last of Us Part 1 comes out on September 2nd. So gearing up for that. But until then, you'll be playing Ghost. And I may or may not cancel my Firefly Edition pre-order depending on how much I want to appropriate $100. But yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying what I was playing. So yeah.
Sounds all fun. I'm still shocked about the Breath of the Wild. We're gonna have to discuss that.
I can only apologize.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is a mistake you can easily correct.
It's a long game. Like,
listen, this is coming from someone who hasn't finished
no.
like 95% of the game she plays.
Okay.
So
I'm not going to take this slander. Okay.
Oh, damn it.
wait, Brie, you
I
haven't
always
finished
forget.
God of War 2018 yet.
I have. We
Wait.
discussed this.
I thought you said we. I thought
No,
you said
we
you
discussed
haven't.
this for sure because I asked you what the ending was, and you were like, "Yeah, that was the ending," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
Okay, so you did finish it. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we discussed this. I mean, I'll take the shit because I haven't finished pretty much anything else, but
Right. Let me.
you know what? I was thinking about it. I haven't beat a Dark Souls yet. Like I always get
I
to
haven't
the
either.
final boss.
I don't really
Actually,
care.
that's not true. I beat Dark Souls 3 because I wanted to play New Game Plus with the Nameless King's weapon.
Okay.
So,
Nameless
but
King is
other
such a
than
cool
that,
fight from what I've watched.
oh my god, it's awful. I love it, but it's so hard. It has no right to be that hard.
Yeah. Orphan of Cost and Bloodborne. Oh boy.
Oh,
I first tried that boss, and that's my crowning game achievement is first trying Orphan of Cost and Bloodborne, and I couldn't believe it.
You did it on your first try.
Yes. And it took me 8 tries to beat the one Reborn. Now let that sit in your head for a few seconds.
Jesus.
I've had a couple of one shots in Dark Souls, but I think the one that was like
Sorry, not
most
one shot, one tried. Yeah.
No, that's what it's called.
I thought one shot is when you kill an enemy in one.
No.
attack.
So one shot in any other game besides Dark Souls means you killed them in one hit. In Dark Souls, for some reason, like when you finish a boss in one go, it's called one shot as well. They just stole the term again.
All right.
Which
so
I was very confused for a very long time about. I'm like, I didn't one shot it, and they're like, no, but you did. I'm like, what?
You're like, okay.
This is confusing. No, so the only one that I did, I think that I can remember is Ornstein and Smaug.
Yeah, Dark Souls 1, yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Wait, you one tried them?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Those are like notorious for being some of the hardest bosses in that game.
Mm-hmm. I was really glad that I one shot it because otherwise I probably would have been very mad. So.
What weapon were you using? Or what was your build?
I don't remember.
Do you remember like vaguely? Great sword, magic?
I don't use magic ever. I don't use shields either unless I'm scared. I'll pull a shield out if I'm like actually scared, like I'm playing like a scary game. So I'll like walk around with the shield because I'm like, oh no, what happened?
So you were probably either dual wielding or carrying a great weapon, like a
yeah. So I either do a great sword or like the katanas. I just don't know which one because I switch between those two builds a lot.
Okay, yeah.
I think it may have been washing pole, but I could be wrong.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what most players do. I think most players stray away from magic in Dark Souls 1, and ironically, the pyromancy does not scale with magic. You level up the weapon like any other weapon. It's an odd, interesting mix. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I haven't tried touching like any of that magic stuff at all. So.
Oh, I'm a big pyro fan because fire fun. Yeah.
That's true.
But anyway, let's get into the news for this week. So starting off with PlayStation on PC land. There was a possible PlayStation PC launcher, maybe, not so sure, sus thing going on with Spider-Man Remastered. To be more specific, in game files of Spider-Man 2018 Remastered for PC, there were game files that referenced to two different things. Quote, PSN account linked was one reference, and PSN linking entitlements was another reference in the game's files. This comes to us from VGC, and VGC verified it themselves with these claims. And this is possible foreshadowing of a PlayStation PC launcher, maybe, or at least the connection between your PlayStation PC game and your PSN account. It probably would be favorable for PlayStation to make their own launcher, considering Steam takes 30% of the revenue from any game purchase by me or you from that platform. But yeah, I think this probably makes sense to happen eventually. At the very least, a PlayStation network connection to their PC games, if not a launcher in the near future. But what do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. There are some people that will kick up a fuss saying, "Not another launcher on my PC," which is fair, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm of the mindset that it's just a button that you click on, and it's nice to have a cohesive library in one place, sure, but ultimately I don't think it impacts your actual gaming experience all that much. And I think that PlayStation has this kind of prestige boutique vibe to it, and they have that energy. So I think that they will want, and I'm sure that they'll still keep like their Epic association going. They're quite buddy with Epic Games.
Yes.
So I think that the PlayStation titles will still appear on the Epic Game Store, but I think that you'll maybe be able to link that EGS account to this PlayStation launcher, and then all of your PlayStation Studios games will flood into that launcher by default, maybe something like that. I'm all for it. The linking entitlements is where I get a little bit hung up. Like, I guess for me, it doesn't really make that much difference, because I can just, if I want to buy a game on PC, again, I guess it kind of technically depends on whether there is some, if you're linking a PSN account, can you register digital purchases from a PlayStation console to this new launcher and therefore have access to the PC version of that game?
I doubt that, because PlayStation was really big on dual entitlement, PS4 to PS5, and they created that term. So considering they pioneered the anti-consumer practice to simply not let you do that, I highly doubt they would go back on that unless someone, I don't know, threatened Jim Ryan's family or something. But that doesn't happen. I don't really see them doing this. What do you think, Brie?
My thing is like, I don't want them to. I don't know like whether they will or won't, but I really don't want them to. And it's not
create a PC launcher, or
to create a launcher. I would rather them put their games on other things. The thing is that I'm like actually like pretty. There's only like three launchers that I'm okay with. The rest of them are just like horrible softwares that run just terribly, like don't aesthetically look pleasing. Like the Epic Store. Like, trust me, I love Epic, but like, man, the Epic Store is so ugly.
Oh, and I'll take their games. I'll take their free games.
Yeah, you're right. I will take their games. But the thing is like, can you, like, I don't know, like, I just would rather, like, if you're going to make a launcher, put the time and effort into making the launcher work correctly. Otherwise, like, don't make a launcher. And as aesthetic as PlayStation is, my worry is that they won't put time into this launcher, and it will just be another shit launcher. And like I don't want any more of those.
There you go.
Like the thing is like Steam works perfectly. Steam looks nice. Like it's maybe not the best color palette, but it like at least makes sense what the store looks like. The Riot launcher looks great. You could do that one. Like the Riot launcher looks fantastic. Like I don't know, like it's it drives me crazy, and I have a million launchers on my computer. Like my whole, like the bottom of my screen is just like launchers. So it drives me crazy.
Have you considered using GOG Galaxy to centralize your launchers?
I have not heard of that, so no, I have not considered
okay.
it.
So I would Google it if I were you. It's called GOG or GOG Galaxy, where you connect your other launcher accounts into the interface. It's run by GOG or CD Projekt Red, the owners of the same ownership of the software and marketplace to those CDPR games, but you put in all your credentials to like Epic, Xbox, Ubisoft, Origin, Steam, and it takes all those libraries and pushes them into this one universal palette that is GOG Galaxy. And you can search your library across all these different platforms at once and choose the game you want to play. I
should look into that for sure, because like it's getting like annoying having like 20 launchers. Like everybody has to have their own launcher. Like everybody like has to have their own. They're like, I can't possibly play nice.
Yeah,
drives me crazy.
I used to get mad at it, but as my PC gaming swings like a pendulum from like sometimes I play my Switch for a few months heavily, my PlayStation for a couple months heavily, then back to my PC. I haven't been on my PC so regularly such that I jump between game to game to where it becomes a massive issue. Like when I play on PC, it's usually one game until I complete it. Like I played Halo 3, I recently completed on PC. And that was through the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox app. Xbox app isn't that great, but it's like the only launcher I used for a couple months because I was just strolling through Halo slow and steady. So it's not a huge issue for me, but it will become more of an inconvenience the more heavily if I were to play on PC. I highly doubt, like I said, they'd let you access a game you buy on console to play it on PC, but I think a launcher is probably likely, at the least from just money on the table. 30% of revenue, they're not going to let that happen. I think it's inevitable over the next 6 to 18 months or so, they'll probably put it into play. But
I just hope they do it right, at least. Like, if you're going to do it, please do it right. Like, please, like, do it so it looks like the PlayStation 5 user interface. Like,
right. They could try that almost like a Steam Big Picture type aesthetic. Or not aesthetic, where like a button you press that turns it into how it would look on your PlayStation. Almost that identical navigation if you have your DualSense connected to your computer, right? But yeah.
You should definitely do that. It's a good idea. You should call them.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about Embracer?
Not me. Oh, God. I'll read
it. Go on.
Okay. Embracer Group snags up more studios. Knock it off. As of a few days ago, from this time of recording, which today's the 21st, Embracer Group has acquired 6 more studios, one of which has not been publicly released. Acquisition includes Tripwire Interactive, and they've made Killing Floor and Maneater. They also acquired Limited Run and Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Like, literally, like not like sarcastically, they acquired Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, basically.
For Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, it includes games, TV, movie, all of it. Singtrix, a home karaoke developer, and Tuxedo Labs are also included. 5 of the 6 companies in the acquisition exceed $570 million in cost. So basically, they're just like, we have so much money, we're just going to buy Lord of the Rings. Literally, like, the most popular book to, like, ever exist. Like, it was more popular than the Bible.
Oh, let's go. That's an awesome achievement. I stand that.
Like, that's how much money they have, though. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, Sam was seething in disappointment and anger when he heard Limited Run was acquired.
Yeah. It just, like, it sucks. Consolidation in general, I think, is a bad thing. There may be minor exceptions to that rule, but I think it's pretty definitive. At least consolidation on this scale. And sure, doesn't mean that maybe we're going to get some even more cool Lord of the Rings games. Probably. But is the trade-off that now this company that isn't necessarily explicitly tied in any way to Tolkien's families now has it's a slippery slope, man. If this sort of stuff can happen now, anything's on the table.
So is the Tolkien estate not involved at all anymore?
I'm sure that they have some say.
Okay, I was gonna say they have to at least have like said like, okay, like you can like take it, but like also we need some control. Like
they have some royalties, I'm sure. I don't know if they have any more than that though.
I hope they have like I hope they have some say. Like I hope they're able to veto like just ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
But
it's
because they were talking about like solo films for Gandalf, and it's like, what are you doing
with Ian McKellen?
Say less.
I'd watch it, but like, it's just, are you trying to MCUify Lord of the Rings now?
I think so.
Doing
that might be their goal.
The thing is like there is a lot in Lord of the Rings that hasn't been touched like in the films. And there's a lot that like hasn't even been touched like in the published books. It's like in like his extra works that aren't like technically like quote unquote published. Okay. But like there's so much stuff that I would really love to have answers to. And like the thing is that Tolkien's not around to give us the answers. And so I think other people are gonna try and give us the answers. And I think I hope we're not disappointed with those answers, but yeah, I mean, like, what's going on with the blue mages? Like, please, like, let me know. What's going on with the queen with all of her cats? Like, please, let me know. But you never know.
Yeah, I've never been a huge Lord of the Ring or Hobbit guy. Like, I appreciated the movies. My dad actually has 50 or so year old collection of the trilogy that was passed down to me. It's worth a couple. If I really want to get rid of it, I can make probably $100-$200, but I keep it for sentimental reasons, and I eventually want to actually start reading Fellowship. But yeah, I was shocked that I was also as surprised that Limited Run was acquired.
Yep.
I thought Limited Run Games, for listeners who don't know, is a company that creates physical editions or special editions of already physical games that would not have existed otherwise. Especially on the indie front. For example, a popular retro boomer shooter I love called Dusk came out in 2018. Recently got a Switch port, came out in the eShop, but also got a physical Switch copy from Limited Run. I think it was through Limited Run. That came out last year. And they've done other stuff like Ultra Special Editions 2. Like, there was a big Doom one that came out recently, and it's just a real community, seems like grassrootsy, folksy type vibe to it. And yeah, you buy the games like 4 to 6 months in advance of when they're actually shipped to you, and then they come out in limited runs, pun intended, for the company, and you get them. And like that, it's great for the indie scene and for people, physical collectors like Ethan over at Project X Talk, to have some fun. But I wasn't expecting a game preservation type smaller company like that to get acquired by Embracer Group. And that was really just surprising to me. I must have been an offer they couldn't refuse monetarily. I don't know how this affects their autonomy and operation, or not, but that awaits to be seen. Sam, do you know if they've released any statements on this? Or,
as far as I'm aware, Limited Run haven't said anything. They might have like actively shared some sort of articles covering the announcement, but not necessarily released a statement themselves. I could be wrong, but at least from what I know, they haven't said anything. I would hope that it doesn't affect their autonomy, because if you are getting into selective game preservation, or even more selective than what they had to be before, just due to the scope of themselves as a company.
right.
If Embracer now have control over which games do the runs for, that's I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I think hopefully maybe the best case scenario of that would be they get increased funding, and with some of the increased funding, they make a deal where they're like, okay, we will special editionize a few big THQ Nordic games coming out, like maybe Destroy All Humans 2, right? That's a big one from the showcase last week. But yeah, hopefully it's just they're financially anchored and they can continue with their work. But I guess that remains to be seen. So we'll see in the coming weeks. Hopefully we have an update on that soon for you guys, listeners. But yeah. So moving on, Sam, what's going on with Midgard?
Oh, plenty of juicy things. PlayStation has officially released a new Myths of Midgard video recapping the story of God of War 2018. The video is narrated by Felicia Day with pop-ins from Mamiya, and it summarizes God of War 2018 story in an animated story fashion. So it covers the entire plot, including spoilers. So if you haven't played the game and are wary of spoilers, be aware. But it is a great entry point for people who either haven't played the game and don't care about spoilers, or for those people who maybe played it back at release and need a bit of a refresher before Ragnarok comes. So you can find it on YouTube by searching Myths of Midgard. And it is also available for those who would prefer it in written form in a PlayStation blog, which is called Story Details You Need to Know Before Playing God of War Ragnarok. I dig that they did this. I like it. It's an unnecessary thing, very minor in the grand scheme of things, but it's nice. I think it builds a sense of anticipation for Ragnarok. Not that they needed more of that, but
right, they already have work cut out for them. But this isn't. I could have omitted the story from the news. I added it, but because I just thought the video was cool, and when PlayStation does cool stuff like this, I like shining a bit of a spotlight on it. It was very, very well well-made production.
I think it also helps with accessibility, like genuinely to the game, because like there's probably people that were like, I'm not going to play it because I don't want to like go through the first one, and now they can. I'm sure that that's not like a huge audience that they're like, oh, I haven't played the first one and I don't want to play the first one, but it is technically like from PS4, so like if you were not wanting to play it on your PS5 and you don't have a PS4, then this is a great option.
Yeah. Also for folks who just don't have a lot of time to play games, but like being somewhat current with games. I know this happens to me every so often where it just seems once in a while I pop up to a brand new release and I find myself a little ill-prepared because I haven't been invested in an ongoing franchise for a while. And this is a good refresher to just get the background I need and get in. I actually did something similar to when I played the Yakuza games. So I played Yakuza 0, Kiwami, Kiwami 2. I started playing 3, thought the combat was worse than like watching paint dry. It was so stiff and bad. And I thought the story was, it was a bit, while it was wholesome, I found it boring. And I just said, nope, not playing this anymore. And I wanted to make my way through the whole franchise. So I ended up watching a story recap of Yakuza 3 and Yakuza 4, ran by the YouTube channel called La Muerte Blanca. But yeah, awesome recaps. And it includes the rest of the games for those interested. And I think he also has Judgment. He has Like a Dragon for sure. But anyway, I watched recaps of 2 Yakuza games entering Yakuza 5, which I do intend to play, which is like 60 hours long because it was meant to be the last Yakuza game before they rebooted the franchise with Yakuza 0. Mm-hmm. But the point being that story recaps have a place, and I've found anecdotal good use from it. And I think this will just help with more people. At the very least, more people buy the game, and Sony likes money. But also, just as a matter of convenience, I think it's a good move. Yeah.
And also, like, this is purely speculative, but it's worth mentioning. There has been some rumblings going on that this video is kind of like a backdoor to announce that Felicia Day, the narrator for this video, is voicing Faye, Kratos' wife.
Oh, shit, really?
Purely speculative, but people are running with this theory that, yes, Felicia Day hasn't necessarily done a lot of video game stuff in the past, but, they've got Ryan Hurst for Thor, Peter Schiff, I think his name is, from West Wing for Odin. And for people who don't know, kind of spoilers for the 2018 God of War,
you've been warned.
Faye, Kratos' wife, very clearly orchestrated the entire plot of that game well ahead of before it happened. So it would kind of make sense if they are wanting to do this kind of meta thing, to have the actress that plays the character maybe in a flashback in Ragnarok or something narrate the story of 2018.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you think
that sounds really cool?
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be a resurrection, or if there's some sort of god that comes in where. I doubt that. But...
No, I don't think. They may have flashbacks in it.
Flashback, yeah, Sam said. I think flashback's the most probable.
I mean, I don't want to get too much into sort of Norse mythology, but the whole Jormungandr thing, in 2018, without going into depth, because I don't want to necessarily suggest anything, not that I know anything that's going to happen in Ragnarok, obviously. But Jormungandr is technically from the future, and is sent back in time after a fight with Thor during Ragnarok. So time travel isn't necessarily off the cards, I would say.
Okay.
But I would wager that a flashback is probably more likely.
Right. Also,
didn't they say something about like her being murdered or something though? I don't remember exactly what happened with her.
Also, just time travel and how God of War works. We went from ancient Greece to Norse mythology.
Yeah, that's true. He just changed pantheon. So
yeah, the time scale on that is, if you make a sweeping assumption that Norse mythology takes place around the height of, I don't know if I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to think that there's a time jump between when Greek mythology happened and actually happened in its own mythos, and when Norse mythology happened in its own mythos, that Kratos clearly jumped almost dimensions here. So some multiverse or something like that, I think is already active within the realms of the franchise. So I wouldn't put it past Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a cool moment too.
Yeah. But yeah. So moving on, we have some news about Team Asobi, the wonderful developers of Astrobot Rescue Mission and the recent PS5 launch title, Astro's Playroom, which was a pack-in for the PlayStation 5. Team Asobi confirmed they're working on their, quote, next biggest to-date game. Studio director Nicholas Doucette said in a recent interview with GamesIndustry.biz that the follow-up to Astro's Playroom is a, quote, full-blown commercial title to take advantage of Sony's hardware. I'm about to say it's conjecture, probably oriented towards PSVR 2, right? If history repeats itself, going from Rescue Mission and taking advantage of hardware. We have new hardware, new, quote unquote, interesting hardware to look forward to. And hopefully there's a version that's playable on PS5 and PSVR 2, and it's not exclusive to PSVR 2. But knowing how exclusives work, that they're large motivators to sell hardware, I would say it's more likely than not it is a PSVR 2 exclusive for this next project from Team Asobi. Doucette commented on the new tech, saying he is, quote, going to try to use it in ways you're not supposed to when it comes to new technology in general. So he's very into experimenting and diving into the unknown and the quirky and things of that nature. And Team Asobi is almost at 100 employees. It had 60 at the launch of Astro's Playroom. So Sony SIE is clearly scaling up with that studio, and they should be after a great experience that was Astro's Playroom. One of the best 3D platformers in recent memory, and I think in the running for the top 3, maybe even top 2 best pack-in games of all time. I think Super Mario World actually takes that for SNES, but I digress. Doucette also said he wants to make the game feel like it's made in Japan. Whatever that means. He says he wants to make players feel not from an absolute or overt sense of, or a feature that, but something that says to them that this was constructed in Japan, which is very interesting stylistic goal and something that I'm really curious how he achieves. But yeah, what do you guys think of this?
It's exciting, I think. As you say, both Playroom and Rescue Mission are stellar titles for different reasons. I think they're both great platformers. Obviously, Rescue Mission is argued, in my opinion, a system seller for the original PSVR in and of itself. I would happily buy the VR headset just for Rescue Mission. It was that good. I probably agree with you that it is going to be VR 2. I'm not. It's weird because I think that Astrobot just as like an IP, and I'm assuming that it is going to be another Astrobot title. As an IP, I think it's on the precipice of becoming like not necessarily like a headline act, but like a major IP in Sony's portfolio.
It is the family-friendly Sony mascot that Sackboy was in the PS3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to take those reins.
So I think that maybe, like with that in mind, there is potential that they want to keep the audience for this title as wide as and accessible as possible without having to do a double dip on a new bit of hardware.
Okay.
That being said, I would still say, as you mentioned in the news story, the studio in general has a historic notion to experiment with new tech and try out new features and things that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate, making things work in weird ways. So I think that inevitably, assuming that it does have PSVR 2 functionality at all, and it isn't just like a basic 2D platform, flat screen platformer, I think that they will want to steer as hard into that new tech as possible.
Cool. Yeah.
I have not.
You were shaking your head.
No, it was just like I have no experience with this. Like I didn't play either of these games. I do have a PSVR. And I did not play Rescue Mission. I have not played Astro's Playroom. In fact, I uninstalled it recently because I was like, I'm not going to play this. I don't know. I just didn't think I would play it.
Do you not like 3D platformers?
I do, but I just didn't like. I don't know. Like it just hasn't been on my radar. I
God.
guess
I'm
I didn't
going
know
to.
it was gonna be drama.
I'm gonna break
So
into
I
your
will
home and
do
reinstall
it.
it.
It's a
Do it.
PlayStation nostalgia trip. It's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
homage to
Yeah.
everything PlayStation.
Also, it makes
Oh,
you feel
interesting.
justified for having your DualSense.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it has a lot of
Okay.
great DualSense features that hopefully don't break your controller, but it has a lot of great DualSense stuff. I've heard stuff where people are like, my spring and my adaptive trigger broke, or some stuff like that, and I'm like, well, hope it doesn't do that in Astro's Playroom where it's putting the controller to the mechanical limit, but it's a fun time. It's really cool.
I'll have to re-download it then and check it out.
Yeah, because if you don't, I will.
You will re-download
arrive.
it for me.
I will be in your walls and I will re-download it.
In my walls. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I will definitely check it out. But yeah, I just was like more shaking my head. Like I have no like concept of this. Like the only thing I would say is that like I love when developers are able to really like push the limits like this. So I'm definitely all for it. Especially like made in Japan. Again, whatever that means. Like, I mean, this all sounds great. It's just like my point of reference isn't really there. I
It's
guess.
okay. We can enrich
We
it.
can fix this.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Oh my god.
All right.
I think it's my turn.
Sure.
I'm not even going, you know what? I'm not even going to transition. I'm just going to start reading. So
All right.
that
This is
way
the last
you
story, guys.
can't say like, that way you can't be like, hey, Brianna, what's going on with this? I'm just going to go.
Hey, Brianna, what's going on with
No,
PlayStation
it's
and
too
TV?
late. PlayStation is continuing its IP expansion into film and TV with a Days Gone feature film. Sheldon Turner, head writer of Outlander, is attached to adapt with Sam
Huon?
Huon, maybe?
Huon.
Who knows?
Huey Lewis in the
Outlander
news.
is set to star as Deacon St. John, seemingly indicative of Sony's reluctance to port talent directly over from the games into the movies, likely a sign that the actors such as Daisuke Tsuji, which is Jin Sakai, and Christopher Judge, which is Kratos, will not be reprising their respective roles in upcoming multimedia projects. I am actually kind of excited about this. I really wanted to get into Days Gone, but the moment it came out, everybody was like, "Don't play it." And
I never
was
played it,
so bummed.
but I want to play with the 60 FPS patch or the updates they got.
I really wanted to like that game. I really wanted to play that game.
I enjoyed it. I think it wasn't. I mean, I platinumed it obviously, but it's something that it's like the most perfect 6/7 out of 10. It's not blowing anybody away.
It's the most perfect mid game I've ever played, guys.
Exactly. And I think it's disappointing that it didn't get a sequel, because I think that, you know, it took a really long time to get to it. But when you get towards the end of the story in Days Gone, some really, really interesting things start happening. And I think that, you know, Bend, this was their biggest project by far. And I think that, you know, this was like a really good first pass, and they could have taken what they'd learned from this and make a Days Gone 2 really quite excellent.
Well, just happened recently. A lead at Bend, Eric Jensen, just started at Sucker Punch for Sony.
Yes,
as a senior lead developer.
Mm-hmm. They've had like an exodus of talent from Bend over the past year or so. Like, why can't I remember his name? Jeff Ross, I think. He might still be there, actually. It was why am I blanking on the name? Whoever directed Days Gone, he left as well, and that was quite vitriolic. Like, he was quite outspoken about his disdain for Sony's treatment of Bend/Days Gone.
Yes, there was Ross and then John Garvin.
That's it, John Garvin.
He was the writer-director. Yeah.
I just had Gabe Newell in my head, and I'm like, well, that's not right at all.
Yeah,
but maybe, you know, I'm similarly excited. Assuming that this is going to be like a loose adaptation, as most of their projects have been thus far in film and television, I would hope that maybe this, and obviously it's a film, so not necessarily going to have the running time to do it, but if they are potentially hoping to keep Days Gone as an IP alive in this media form as opposed to video games, I maybe hope that they do continue the story from where it left off, or set the runway so that they can continue the narrative branches that they were setting up, because it's a disappointment otherwise.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. I didn't play Days Gone, and I was kind of jaded on zombie TV adaptations after spending 10 seasons with The Walking Dead reluctantly, and then turning it off midway through season 10. I'm like, I was like, no more, I'm clean. Stop. but I'm gonna turn it back on for Last of Us because I'm a loser. But this is interesting. I do want to play Days Gone eventually, and I'm interested to see how this turns out. I think it's also, in some cases, it's for the better that Sony doesn't use their voice actors to reprise the role in live action of the characters they play. Like Christopher Judge is getting old. He's in his mid-50s, I think, by this point, which is not old per se for someone in the West, a man in the Western Hemisphere, but for a live action strenuous TV role with the character as physical as Kratos, he's relatively old. And with a guy like Deacon, it also depends. I don't know. Some of Hollywood is very shallow and petty. They're like, if you don't have the, I don't know. I'm not surprised, I should just say, considering that they're changing casting entering Hollywood because they want people to look a certain way, as painful as that is to say.
Doing Sam Witwer dirty. I think I'm with you like 100% that it makes sense in a lot of cases. I would maybe argue, and it's maybe a question for a different day, but that Sam Witwer is maybe a bit of a special case, mainly just because like Deacon is legitimately just Sam Witwer. It's not just a voice actor, it's motion capture. It's,
never mind.
It's the model, it's everything. It is Sam Witwer.
That makes sense.
So I get like, obviously they are opening up the audience and bringing in people that won't have played Days Gone. Probably most people watching this won't have played Days Gone,
including me.
But like for the people that this film is most likely made for, the fans, I think it's just weirdly jarring. Again, like Christopher Judge, I get. Even Daisuke to a certain extent, even though Jin does look like him. Sam Witwer is kind of like named talent more so than those other two, I would argue. So it's a bit weird, but I can't do anything about it. So I'm going to shut up.
I know, I get that. Thanks for giving me the background that he was mocap too, because in most, let me back up. I don't know if it's most games, but in many games like The Last of Us 2, Laura Bailey does not look like Abby. For those who don't know, she also voiced Trunk in Dragon Ball Z Funimation dub. Laura Bailey is a smaller human than the amazing tank that is Abby in The Last of Us. So, or Ashley Johnson does not look like Ellie. So commonly these voice actors and their mocap counterparts are not the same person. So but in Deacon's case, I would agree that makes sense.
Yeah, I think in The Last of Us it doesn't make a lot of sense because it's not just like about looks, it's also about like age. And like they may sound like younger or older, but they don't, like, there's no way that Troy Baker looks like Joel. Like, he's not that old.
Right. And
so it's just like, it's stuff like that I think like it's okay that they change. But in this, like, I think in some cases, I think it would be okay to pull the voice actor. But at the same time, we don't know if the voice actor is against acting. I don't know if that's like that could potentially be the case where they're like, I really don't want to play this role. Like, I'm just a voice actor. We don't know. Like, he may have been offered, but I guess we would never know.
Yeah. Good points for sure. And so,
to be clear, he probably wasn't offered it, but
probably not.
maybe he was, and he was like, no, I don't want to do that. But
yeah. But with that said, now we are finished the news for the week and moving on to our section Limitless, where we talk about whatever the hell we want. So first, with the most pressing and arguably interesting Limitless question we've had this year, what's our game of the year so far, guys? for all of us, not just I'm going to call an audible here, and not limited to just games that came out this year, but games that you played this year.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Is like, do we want to split the discussion? Because I do have some games that I've played this year that are not from this year. That
Include
would
all
be
of
a
it.
contender. Okay.
All the games
Okay.
we played this year.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So unfortunately, well, I guess it's not unfortunately. For me, I don't think there's anything that can beat Elden Ring at this point.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I just want to get that out of the way because even though I'm up to discuss other games, I just don't think that there's anything for me that's going to be Elden Ring, including God of War, unless something crazy happens.
Wow.
The thing is I really the Dark Souls games are in my favorite games of all time, and for another Dark Souls game to come out and not only come out but be fantastic. The world building, of course, was just outstanding. The moment to moment gameplay was outstanding. It was exactly what it promised to be, just this giant open world Dark Souls, and they just let you go wherever. They just let you go into this crazy world, and it still felt like a Dark Souls experience, even though you were just running around like crazy. I don't know what they're going to do next and live up to that, but man, Elden Ring was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So
awesome. Yeah, I played 25 hours and dropped off for literally no reason. So I think I'll pick it back up one day.
You definitely should.
I was a huge Bloodborne fan. It's my favorite, my favorite game ever. So I'm no stranger to FromSoft. I'm not Kevin, who doesn't want to play the games. So
freaking Kevin.
But what about you, Sam? You played a hell of a lot of games this year, I'm sure.
I have. I think my game of the year frontrunner, in terms of something that released this year, would still be Sifu.
Sifu, awesome.
I equally adore Elden Ring, even though I was worked to the bone on it writing the guide.
Yeah, that kind of clouds your experience with it, where it's you associate in both enjoyment and exhaustion and frustration from making it a work task.
I think it's one of the very few examples of my work with IGN where it has done that, but it hasn't necessarily diminished my opinion on the game. I joke about it triggering me every time Elden Ring's brought up, but it is just that good, where even with that baggage that necessarily comes with remembering all the work I had to do, I can still overcome that and be like, well, no, it's still just a really excellent title. Awesome. And for the same reason, that's why I would maybe edge Sifu just a little bit above Elden Ring for me. Mainly just because we all kind of expected Elden Ring to be excellent. But Sifu for me, again, I worked on it solo for IGN, but it was more just the fact that, there was a little bit of hype pre-release, but when it came out, I think it definitely had its moment. I think it's come and passed since, but it took everybody that played it, for the most part, I don't want to be hyperbolic, by surprise. And I think it's just mechanically really polished, really tight. It knows exactly what it wants to do, doesn't overstay its welcome. It's aesthetically gorgeous. And it's something that I can, in the same way that, Soulsborne games are kind of addicting, in just the one more go thing, Sifu scratches that itch as well for me.
Awesome.
So that's why it's on top.
Fantastic choice. Yeah, I haven't played Sifu yet either, but I want to play that game because it seems like it's right up my alley. And it's not on any of the PS Plus services yet.
I know. I was shocked. I turned on my PlayStation because I was like, I'm just gonna check, and nope, it was like you gotta pay, and I was like, I mean, listen, I'll pay, but
I think well, I don't want to necessarily make a prediction, but I would wager that within the next 6 to 8 months it will probably be in service.
Once you approach that 1 year anniversary, maybe yeah, for sure.
Awesome. How are you feeling, Taylor, on Game of the Year?
So for me, I think the only game I played that released this year, might be embarrassing to say it, but it might be Elden Ring. So if it's a game that released this year, we win by technicality here for Elden Ring. But I think for me, the much more meaningful question of what's the best game that I played this year, for me, I think it might be Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
How did I know?
Yeah, it totally sucked me in again, and I've never felt such a sense of adventure and awe of a game's expanse. Other than it, Elden Ring is the only one that approaches it for me. But just the desire and the hunger to see what's on over the next corner, and the want to see how do I solve this puzzle, or the shrine, or what's over there, what's over here, how do I use this game's physics to my advantage to beat these enemies. There's so many systems that work synergistically in that game that make it such a fluid experience moment to moment that it's very special. And at this point in my life, where I'm about to graduate school in a few months, I'm about to embark on a new chapter, new adventure of life. It's come in a timely fashion for where I am in my journey through life. So it's gotten very special for me very fast. And I've played it progressively over the past few years, like I said in previous episodes, but these past couple of months, it's just gripped me like no other. And I think that's because I've become okay with not knowing the answer to some cases. Like, well, if I can't find this or that, after I spend my stubbornly 1 to 5 hours figuring it out, I say, okay, I'll come back to it later or let it be and just go with the flow. And now I'm 3 towers away from having the whole map unlocked or mapped out, and 1 more Divine Beast to go before fighting Ganon, and one I'm always coming back to over these past 3 months. So yeah, now by year's end, God of War or The Last of Us remake, probably God of War Ragnarok, may have something to say at the very least of games that have come out this year that I've played. But yeah,
I think like those games are definitely going to be in the discussion as far as like game of the year. I just don't like, as much as I love God of War, I just don't see it overtaking Elden Ring for me, just like in terms of like the games that I like. But in terms of like other games, like now that we kind of have like the big hitters out of the way, for like games that are just like more just like in the running, but maybe not necessarily will make it. Stray is definitely up there for me.
I hear mixed
Stray
things
was
about it.
such a fantastic experience. I loved it beginning to end. Like there wasn't a mechanic that I didn't like. Like it was just perfect. Like you can like have the robots pet you, you can like meow all the time, you can scratch stuff, like like it's the most cat game. And I like, obviously I love my cat, like she's right here, but like
yeah, I love cats too.
Cats are the best, and it was such a great game, and it was fantastic. Could not recommend it more. So I don't know. That's another one that's like, I think in the game of the year discussion for me, it's like it can't win, but it's there.
Awesome.
So,
and Sam, what were your thoughts on Stray? If I may have said this in a previous episode that I missed, but I'm curious.
Yeah, we did cover it, but I think like I echo the sentiments that Bree had. I'm not a cat person. Not that I have anything against cats, but it's just I've been raised with dogs, and that's how it goes. But that being said, I still got emotionally invested and affected by some of the stuff in Stray. I think, again, like Bree said, mechanically it's pretty sound. A few small things here and there that maybe could have been improved on or touched up, but then that's necessarily true for most games. Yeah, I think kind of like Sifu, not that it's ever going to necessarily reach that level of excellence for me personally, but I think that, again, there's a bit of hype for it, but when it came out, I think everybody was just surprised at how enjoyable it was, even if you didn't necessarily at the end of the day agree on the fact that it was good or great.
Yeah. The other thing that I would like, the other game that's like in my, like it has to be in my top 10 now. Like I have to readjust my top 10. I haven't figured out where it's going to fall, but like Inscription was insanely good. And on a technicality,
All right,
Inscription can be in Game of the Year discussions because it's being released on PlayStation 5.
What do you mean technicality? You can play it anywhere. I'm including all platforms in this.
No, I mean like a technicality as far as like because it's being released again this year. Like because a lot of the times
so the
people are
original
like,
game.
if it doesn't come out this year, you can't like include it. Like I
It's
know we're
re-released.
discussing other games as well, but like it can't be quote unquote Game of the Year because it didn't come out this year, but it kind of technically is coming out this year on a different platform. So just saying it gets it on a technicality. I don't think it would win against Elden Ring, but God, it's like it is so good. It is so good.
Awesome.
I could not recommend Inscription more.
It's a psychological horror game, right?
It does have horror aspects to it. I definitely jumped a few times, not because it was like jump scary, but because I scared myself. Like I would get like overly hyped. Like every time you launch the game too, it's so loud, I would jump. I knew it was coming, but I would still jump. So yes, it's like it's kind of like messes with you horror, but it also very much has that like same like element as far as like Stanley Parable, how you're a character in the game as well. If that makes sense. Like with Stanley Parable, there's you, the narrator, and Stanley, and you're all like characters in the game. And it very much feels like that, where it's like almost meta, where there's like you, another character, and then the playable character.
Interesting.
And like you're all kind of characters in this world, and then you have like all of like the bosses or like enemies that you're like trying to win against, and it is just so it really blew me away at every single point where it's like, oh, okay, like I've beat the game. But then it was like, you actually have not beat the game. And now we're like completely changing the game to a completely aesthetic. And then they do it again. And then they do it again. And it just keeps happening. And you're like, how is this game still going? And still fantastic. Again, could not recommend this game more. It was amazing.
Awesome.
So go play it.
All right. Well, yeah, awesome stuff. So thank you guys for bearing with us through this awesome episode of Limitless and our first episode of No Limits and our first episode back with the whole crew together.
I know we couldn't talk shit about anybody. Yeah. It was so disappointing.
Myself, Sam, and Brianna, after we said some horrid things about Sam last week.
We did.
Like that he's bipedal and featherless and wears glasses and and his room is 4 walls and he lives under a roof.
I know. I can't believe him.
You're not wrong.
These are the worst times.
I know.
But with that said, thank you so much for listening, everyone. And you can find us at youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia. Also, one of your favorite podcast services. Just search No Limits, a PlayStation podcast. Check out our Discord, our Patreon, and our Extra Life. We are actually approaching November. For listeners who don't know, Extra Life is a big fundraising event where we fundraise money for kids with cancer and really unfortunate illnesses. And we are a member of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, and you can freely donate at the link in the show notes. And I'll continue to play this up more and more as we approach November, which is the big fundraising weekend for it. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, everyone. You can find everything what I just said in the show notes. And until next time, where can people find you, Bri?
You can find me at Fabulist Brianna, BREANNA, pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. What about you, Sam?
People can find me on Twitter at Sam Heaney. That's HEANEY.
Sweet. And you guys can find me on the Discord for Save the Game Media. Like I said, links down below. And I don't have Twitter because I don't. So yeah, that's that.
Every week.
That's so much. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Until next time, once again, have a good one.